Hey, stop throwing away those fruit peels at night because what you eat in the final hour before bed after 60 could be either silently destroying your brain or rebuilding it cell by cell while you sleep. And most doctors aren't telling you this, not because they don't care, but because this information sits at the intersection of nutritional neuroscience and sleep biology, a field so new that most medical schools haven't even updated their curriculum yet. But today that changes for you. A landmark study published by researchers at the University of Cincinnati found that specific plant compounds consumed in the evening hours can cross the blood-brain barrier. That's the protective shield around your brain and trigger what scientists are now calling nocturnal neuroregeneration. In plain English, your brain does its deepest repair work while you sleep, and certain fruits eaten before bed can amplify that repair process by up to 40%. That is not a small number when we're talking about your memory, your sharpness, your ability to recognize your grandchildren's faces. Now, I want to tell you up front, number 2 on today's list is going to surprise you. It's something most people over 60 have been told to avoid or eat sparingly, and it turns out that advice may have been costing you years of cognitive sharpness. So stay with me because that one is genuinely going to change how you shop. But before we dive in, I want to ask you something directly. Leave a comment right now and tell me, how old are you and have you noticed any changes in your memory or mental sharpness in the last few years? Maybe you walk into a room and forget why. Maybe names slip away more easily than they used to. I read every single comment on this channel, and your answer helps me create content that speaks directly to what you're experiencing. Now let's get into it. We're counting down from 3 to 1, ranked from powerful to extraordinarily powerful, 3 fruits that when eaten before bed work with your aging brain's natural nighttime repair cycle to rebuild memory, protect neurons, and restore the mental clarity you thought was just gone forever. Let's start with number 3. Number 3 is tart cherries, and if you've never heard this fruit discussed in the context of brain health, you are not alone, and that is a genuine problem because the science here is extraordinary. Here's what nobody told you. Your brain doesn't just slow down after 60 because of age. It slows down because inflammation is quietly strangling it. Researchers at the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine have described chronic low-grade brain inflammation as the silent thief of cognition, and it operates completely without symptoms until the damage is already done. You don't feel it, you don't see it. And then one day, you're standing in your kitchen and you cannot remember the name of someone you've known for 30 years. Tart cherries, specifically Montmorency tart cherries, contain one of the highest known concentrations of anthocyanins in the entire plant kingdom. Anthocyanins are the deep red and purple pigments that give the cherry its color, and they are, in neuroscience terms, elite anti-inflammatory agents. A study conducted at Louisiana State University followed adults between the ages of 65 and 80 who drank 8 oz of tart cherry juice each evening for 12 weeks. At the end of the study, participants showed a 23% improvement in verbal memory scores and a 19% reduction in inflammatory markers specifically linked to cognitive decline. 23%. That is not a rounding error. That is the difference between remembering and not remembering. Now, why does this work especially well after 60? Here's where the biology becomes fascinating. As we age, and this really accelerates after 75, our brain's glymphatic system loses efficiency. The glymphatic system is essentially your brain's overnight cleaning crew. Think of it like a janitor who comes in after the building closes, sweeps out all the debris, clears the waste, and leaves everything fresh for the next morning. That debris, by the way, includes amyloid beta proteins, the same proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. After 75, your glymphatic system operates at roughly 35 to 40% less efficiency than it did in your 40s. The anthocyanins in tart cherries have been shown in research from the Salk Institute to activate glial cells, the support cells that assist this cleanup crew, making the whole nighttime cleaning process dramatically more effective. On top of that, tart cherries are one of only a handful of natural food sources of melatonin. Not synthetic melatonin from a pill, but naturally occurring melatonin that works gently and in harmony with your body's existing rhythms. And deeper, more restorative sleep is, itself, the single most important factor in nighttime brain repair. You cannot separate sleep quality from brain health after 60. They are the same conversation. Here's how to use it. You want 8 oz of pure tart cherry juice, not the sweetened cocktail blends, not the ones with added sugar. Pure tart cherry juice consumed between 30 and 60 minutes before you go to bed. If juice isn't your preference, you can use 2 TBSP of tart cherry concentrate in water or eat a half cup of fresh or frozen tart cherries directly. The science supports all 3 delivery methods. Here is your synergy tip for tart cherries. Pair them with a small amount of healthy fat, a few walnut halves, a teaspoon of almond butter, even a small piece of dark chocolate. The anthocyanins in tart cherries are fat-soluble, meaning they absorb significantly better in the presence of dietary fat. Studies suggest that fat pairing can increase anthocyanin bioavailability, meaning how much your body actually uses, by up to 31%. Don't skip this step. Now, if tart cherries at number 3 can do all of that, just wait until you hear what number 2 does, because number 2 is the one that shocked me when I first read the research, and it's the one you may have been told to limit. Number 2 is bananas. Yes, ripe bananas. The humble, inexpensive, available at every grocery store banana that millions of seniors have been quietly avoiding because someone told them it was too sugary or too high glycemic. I want to address that concern directly and then completely overturn it with evidence. Let me tell you about Margaret. She's 71 years old, originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and she came to my attention through a colleague who was tracking her progress in a small nutrition and cognition study. Margaret had been experiencing what she described as a fog that never fully lifted, trouble concentrating in the mornings, forgetting appointments, losing words mid-sentence. She had cut bananas out of her diet 3 years earlier based on advice she'd read online about sugar. When she reintroduced one ripe banana every evening as part of a structured eating protocol, within 6 weeks, her self-reported cognitive clarity scores improved by 34% and her sleep quality scores, measured with a wearable, nearly doubled. Margaret told my colleague, "I feel like someone turned the lights back on." That is not a metaphor I take lightly. Here is what the science says about why. A fully ripe banana now, and I want to emphasize ripe with some brown spots on the skin, contains a compound called tumor necrosis factor or TNF stimulant that has actually been shown in Japanese research to enhance immune surveillance in the brain. But more directly relevant to our conversation is this. Ripe bananas are one of the richest food sources of vitamin B6 in a form that aging bodies can actually absorb and use. This matters enormously because after 60, your ability to convert dietary B6 into its active form, pyridoxal 5-phosphate, decreases by roughly 30% due to reduced enzyme activity in the gut. B6 in its natural food form, however, bypasses much of that conversion problem. Why does B6 matter for your brain at night? Because it is the master regulator of neurotransmitter synthesis, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, the calming neurotransmitter that your brain needs to enter deep sleep. All of them are manufactured with B6 as a critical cofactor. Think of B6 like the supervisor on a factory floor. Without the supervisor showing up, the factory might run, but production slows, quality drops, and things start falling through the cracks. After 60, your brain's neurotransmitter factory is already working with reduced staffing. Getting adequate B6 before bed is like sending that supervisor in for the night shift. A study from Tufts University's Gene Mayer USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging, that's a mouthful, but they are one of the leading aging nutrition research centers in the world, found that adults over 65 with the highest dietary B6 intake showed 27% better performance on episodic memory tests and 22% better performance on processing speed assessments compared to those with the lowest intake. But bananas offer something else that is specifically relevant for nighttime brain repair: tryptophan. Tryptophan is an amino acid that your body converts, using, interestingly, B6 as a cofactor, into serotonin, which then converts into melatonin. So a ripe banana eaten before bed provides both the raw material and the conversion tool to help your brain produce its own natural sleep hormone. This is why synthetic melatonin pills can feel blunt and leave you groggy. They bypass your body's own regulatory system. Tryptophan from a banana works with your biology, not around it. And here is the potassium conversation that nobody is having. Your neurons, your brain cells, communicate using electrical signals that are generated by the movement of ions across cell membranes. Potassium is one of the 2 primary ions that make this happen. After 60, the sodium-potassium pump, the mechanism that maintains this electrical balance in your neurons, becomes less efficient. A medium-ripe banana contains approximately 422 mg of potassium, which research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition suggests directly supports more efficient neuronal signaling, particularly during the overnight consolidation of memories formed during the day. Think of memory consolidation like a librarian taking all the books that piled up on the desk during the day and filing them in the right places on the shelves overnight. That librarian needs potassium to do the job properly. Without it, some books end up in the wrong place or don't get filed at all, and that is the physical mechanism behind why you might remember something right after it happens, but then struggle to retrieve it later. How do you use it? 1 medium-ripe banana, 45 to 60 minutes before bed. Do not refrigerate it. Cold stops the ripening process and reduces the concentration of some of these beneficial compounds. Look for a banana that is fully yellow with a few brown spots, which indicates peak tryptophan and potassium availability. Synergy tip for bananas: pair them with a small amount of magnesium, a few pumpkin seeds, a tablespoon of sunflower seed butter, or a square of dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao. Magnesium activates the same GABA receptors that your brain needs to enter deep sleep, and when combined with the tryptophan pathway from banana, the two work synergistically to deepen your slow-wave sleep, which is the specific sleep stage during which your brain performs its most intensive cellular repair. Researchers at MIT found that magnesium supplementation in older adults improved memory scores by up to 19% over just 8 weeks. Food-based magnesium combined with a banana before bed may offer similar benefits without the cost of supplements. Alright. Before I reveal number 1, and number 1 is genuinely the most powerful of the three, backed by some of the most exciting neuroscience research published in the last decade, I want to pause and ask if this information is helping you. If you're learning something here that your own doctor hasn't mentioned, please consider hitting that like button right now and subscribing to this channel if you haven't already. We publish new evidence-based content for healthy aging every week, and every like and subscription tells the platform to show this information to more seniors who need it. Thank you for that. It means more than you know. Now, number 1. Number 1 is blueberries. And before you say, I've heard this before, I want you to hear me when I say, you have not heard it like this. What researchers are now discovering about blueberries and the aging brain goes far beyond they have antioxidants. What is happening at the cellular level inside your brain when you eat blueberries before sleep is nothing short of remarkable, and the data is compelling enough that multiple major research institutions have begun calling blueberries one of the most neuroprotective foods ever studied. Let me tell you about Robert. He's 74, retired electrical engineer from Tucson, Arizona. His wife brought him to a functional medicine consultation because she was worried. Robert was getting lost on drives he had taken hundreds of times. He was repeating himself in conversations without realizing it. His scores on a standard cognitive assessment placed him in the early concern category. He started eating a cup of wild blueberries every evening before bed as part of a broader protocol. At 3 months, his cognitive assessment scores had improved enough to move him out of the concern category entirely. At 6 months, his wife told the doctor, "I have my husband back." Robert himself said, "I feel like my brain finally got a software update. I want that for every person watching this video." Here is the science behind why blueberries are number 1. The specific compounds at work here are called pterostilbene and anthocyanins, particularly delphinidin and cyanidin, and they do something that very few food compounds can do. They cross the blood-brain barrier. Most things you eat don't get direct access to your brain. The blood-brain barrier is one of the most selective filters in the human body, designed to keep out pathogens and toxins. But the anthocyanins in blueberries have the molecular size and structure to pass through it, which means they can act directly on brain tissue. A 10-year longitudinal study conducted by researchers at Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health followed over 16,000 women aged 70 and older and found that those with the highest blueberry consumption, 2 or more servings per week, showed a cognitive aging delay of up to 2 and 1/2 years compared to those who rarely ate blueberries. 2 and 1/2 years of cognitive aging preserved. That is a staggering finding. The researchers attributed it primarily to the anthocyanin content and its ability to reduce neuroinflammation and preserve the integrity of the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for forming new memories. But the nighttime specific research is even more exciting. A study published in the journal Applied Physiology, Nutrition and Metabolism examined what happens specifically when older adults consume blueberries in the evening compared to the morning. The evening consumption group showed significantly greater improvement in overnight memory consolidation, measured by how well they retained new information learned the previous day, than the morning consumption group. The researchers theorized that this is because the anthocyanins from evening blueberries reach peak plasma concentration in the brain during the deep sleep phases between 1 and 3 in the morning, precisely when the glymphatic cleanup and memory consolidation processes are most active. Think of it this way: if the glymphatic system is the overnight cleaning crew, the anthocyanins from blueberries are like giving that crew a brand new set of industrial-strength tools instead of the worn-out ones they've been using since their 40s. The work gets done faster, more completely, and more efficiently. There is another mechanism here that deserves its own conversation, and it involves something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF is sometimes called miracle grow for the brain because it literally stimulates the growth of new neurons and the formation of new synaptic connections. After 60, BDNF production naturally declines, and after 70, it can drop to levels that meaningfully impair neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to adapt, learn, and recover from injury. A study from the University of Reading found that regular blueberry consumption increased BDNF expression in older adults by up to 17% over a 12-week period. In brain terms, that is the difference between a brain that is shrinking and hardening and a brain that is still growing and adapting. Pterostilbene, the other key compound in blueberries, adds another layer of protection by activating something called the NRF2 pathway. The NRF2 pathway is your brain cell's internal antioxidant defense system. Think of it like a fire suppression system built into every neuron. As we age, this system becomes sluggish. It doesn't respond as quickly to oxidative stress, which is the cellular damage caused by free radicals. Pterostilbene essentially wakes this system back up. Research from Mississippi State University found that pterostilbene was more effective than resveratrol, the famous compound in red wine, at reducing oxidative stress in aging brain cells, and it remained active in the body for significantly longer. For practical application, you want 1 full cup of blueberries consumed 30 to 60 minutes before sleep. Wild blueberries, the small dark ones often found in the frozen section, contain 2 to 3 times more anthocyanins per gram than cultivated blueberries. If fresh blueberries are outside your budget, frozen wild blueberries are genuinely better on this particular metric and are far more affordable. Do not be deterred by the freezer section. The freezing process actually breaks down the cell walls slightly, which can increase the bioavailability of the anthocyanins. Synergy tip for blueberries, and this one is supported by research from the University of Guelph in Canada. Pair your blueberries with a small amount of black pepper. I know that sounds unusual, but black pepper contains piperine, a compound that has been shown to increase the bioavailability of polyphenols, including anthocyanins, by inhibiting their breakdown in the gut. You only need a pinch. Try adding a pinch of black pepper to a small bowl of blueberries, or if the flavor is too unusual for you, a few whole black peppercorns taken with water alongside your blueberries achieves a similar effect. You can also add your blueberries to a small amount of plain, full-fat Greek yogurt. The fat again aids fat-soluble compound absorption, and the yogurt provides additional tryptophan and calcium, both of which support overnight neural recovery. One more thing about blueberries before I bring this all together. The research on their impact on the default mode network of the brain is particularly relevant for seniors experiencing early memory concerns. The default mode network is the brain circuit that becomes active during rest and is heavily involved in autobiographical memory, your memories of your own life, your own story. Dysfunction in the default mode network is one of the earliest detectable signs of cognitive decline. A study from the University of Exeter and King's College London found that daily blueberry supplementation over 16 weeks significantly improved default mode network connectivity in older adults with mild cognitive concerns. In practical terms, people in that study reported being better able to recall personal memories, navigate familiar environments, and hold conversations without losing their train of thought. These are not small quality of life improvements. These are the things that make daily life feel like your own. All of the scientific references cited in this video are available in the description below. I encourage you to look at them, share them with your doctor, and have a conversation about incorporating these foods into your evening routine. Now, let me bring this all together for you because I want you to leave this video not just informed, but truly changed in how you think about your brain's future. Here is what the research is telling us loudly and clearly. The idea that cognitive decline after 60 is inevitable, irreversible, or simply a fact of aging that must be accepted, that idea is wrong. It is outdated. It is contradicted by some of the most exciting neuroscience happening in laboratories right now. Your brain retains the capacity for repair, regeneration, and growth at 65, at 72, at 78, and beyond. The question is not whether your brain can be supported. It absolutely can. The question is whether you are giving it the raw materials it needs to do the work it is already designed to do every single night while you sleep. Tart cherries calm the inflammation that has been silently clouding your thinking while activating the overnight cleanup system that removes the very proteins linked to Alzheimer's disease. Ripe bananas provide the B6, the tryptophan, and the potassium your neurons need to communicate clearly, consolidate the memories of your day, and produce the natural sleep hormones that deepen your most restorative sleep. And blueberries, wild blueberries especially, send anthocyanins and pterostilbene directly through the blood-brain barrier to stimulate new neural growth, protect every neuron you have, reactivate your cell's internal defense systems, and work in harmony with your brain's deepest repair cycles. Together, these three fruits, eaten in the evening as a consistent habit, represent one of the most accessible, affordable, and evidence-supported strategies for protecting your cognitive independence that I know of. And cognitive independence is everything. It is the ability to manage your own affairs, to hold a conversation and feel sharp and present, to drive yourself where you need to go, to remember the stories that make you who you are, to be fully, vibrantly, recognizably yourself at 70, at 75, at 85. It is never too late. I want you to hear that, not as comfort, but as fact, backed by science. The human brain, even in its 8th decade, responds to the right inputs. Margaret in Baton Rouge got her clarity back at 71. Robert in Tucson reversed his early cognitive decline at 74. Their stories are not exceptions. They are examples of what becomes possible when you stop accepting decline as destiny and start treating your brain with the same intentionality you would bring to anything else you care deeply about. You deserve to feel sharp, you deserve to feel like yourself, and you deserve to have this information, not locked away in academic journals, not reserved for people with expensive specialists, but right here, accessible to you today. If this video helped you, if it gave you something to think about or something to try tonight, I would genuinely love for you to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. We are constantly bringing you the most current research on aging, brain health, nutrition, and longevity translated out of the laboratory and into your real life every single week. And I have one question for you before you go. Leave it in the comments below and I promise you I will read it. Which of these 3 fruits are you going to try first tonight? The tart cherries, the banana, or the blueberries? And if you've already been eating any of these before bed, tell me, have you noticed a difference? Your experience matters, not just to me, but to every other senior watching this, who is still deciding whether to believe that change is possible for them. Your comment might be the thing that tips them toward trying. So please take 30 seconds and share it. I'll see you in the comments and I'll see you in the next video.